Hey guys, it's Nikki here. I'm here to do my intro clip for I almost want to say like a challenge video, but it's really just like a multi-week vlog where I read books that, according to this Reddit post I found, feel similar to Over the Garden Wall. I watched the Cartoon Network cartoon of it and loved it, and this year I decided to pick up the graphic novels or comics to go with it, and I have been only impressed so far. They complement each other really well, and I just wanted to carry over the things I liked from that into more reading material. And so I was having a hard time like describing what I was looking for, so I just turned to Reddit. I turned to Google and typed in books that feel like Over the Garden Wall, and it led me to the Reddit post. And these 3 books that I'm reading for this are 3 that were mentioned. I have first The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly. This seems to be a middle grade book. A little bit historical fiction, a little bit fantasy. It seems like the main character, David, starts getting like pulled into the stories he's reading, but like physically getting pulled in. Of the 3 books, I think tonally it's going to be the most similar, just with that sense of childlike whimsy and adventure, and maybe that more kind of fairy tale-esque feeling to it as well. The next one I have here is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This is actually the graphic novel, and I'm going to be reading through it using this and the audiobook. The wait times just for the physical book were a little bit longer than I wanted, so I decided to do a slightly different read-through of it. This art style is not my favorite. It's still very pretty, but it's a little bit more human and sketchy than I was hoping for, but that's only because I've seen the animation style of the movie. But I'm excited for this one. It has kind of that portal fantasy feel. I forgot to mention, as did the last one, it seems like it'll be a portal fantasy, which is very similar to Over the Garden Wall. Over the Garden Wall has that kind of portal fantasy sense, even if it's not quite what's going on. And then finally, I have The Hike by Magary. As you can see, all of these are library books. The Hike is probably the biggest change, both tonally and kind of at the directed audience. The other 2 books are definitely middle grade, and this one seems like it's going to be pretty adult. But it has the journey, like the the journeying through the forest after getting lost, and the sense of being chased is here. I'm really excited to pick these up. I am very excited to see what they hold for me, and I will check in with you guys in the next clip to let you know how it went. Peace. Hey guys, just checking in with you here. So I have finished my first book for my books that feel like Over the Garden Wall, and the first book I read was Coraline. I did this as a mixture of graphic novel and audiobook. I listened to some of it while we were painting our house, as you don't know if anybody noticed, but we have new colored walls. And I really enjoyed it. I had never actually watched Coraline. It came out as a movie when I was, I don't know, kid-ish, and this is the first time I've picked up the book. I actually really enjoyed doing it through the graphic novel and the audiobook. I found it was a good combination for me personally. It really did a good job, like, emphasizing kind of the otherworldly, kind of like magicalness to the story, and just like the graphic novel especially did a really good job making it creepy. The audiobook, the voice for the rats was just on point. It was very unnerving. And while I understand that this is like a middle grade story, I totally see why some people say it's a little bit more like young adult than middle grade. It is pretty dark. But I really enjoyed it. Next is to pick up either The Book of Lost Things or The Hike. Those were the other two books that were recommended on that Reddit post that I referenced in the intro. And I'll check in with you guys once I start reading them. Peace. Hey guys, just checking in with you here. I have picked up The Hike by Magary. I've read about the first 5 chapters. I see why, at this point I see why it was recommended as being similar to Over the Garden Wall. It doesn't have quite the same vibe, but it does have a very similar setup. This is just much more adult. I'm enjoying it so far, but I'll let you know as I keep going. Today is the last day of my holidays that I took, so you'll probably get multiple clips today of me just sitting and reading because this is how I'm going to spend the last day I have off. And I will check in with you guys once I'm coffeed up, fed, and read up. Hey guys, just checking in here. I am now 100 pages or 17 chapters into this book. I'm still enjoying it. I still understand why people say it feels like why this would be a recommendation if you enjoyed Over the Garden Wall, because we have the Lost in the Forest element. We have the weird path back home, and on that weird path there's a bunch of strange obstacles, but so far I don't have the sense of whimsy that I like. This is definitely a lot more of an adult book. This is an adult book. It's versus Over the Garden Wall, which definitely feels a little bit more middle grade. So I get why it's being recommended based on the content, but it doesn't quite have the same vibe. I still have just over half of the book to go, so we'll see how it goes with the rest of it. Hey guys, it's been a few hours since I last talked to you. I've had lunch, and I finished The Hike by Magary. I 100% completely understand now why this was recommended if you enjoyed Over the Garden Wall. It is a much more adult take on a very similar concept, and I enjoyed it. It was only less than 300 pages, so it wasn't that long. So the pacing was really good, and it reminded me a lot of the pacing of Over the Garden Wall. The content, a lot of the content is way more adult than Over the Garden Wall. But I get it now. And I wouldn't necessarily say it has the same vibes, but if you like that kind of story, a traveling story with obstacles, and the story is kind of coming to terms with yourself and what your life is, then you'll probably enjoy it, because the main character in this book does have that very similar experience to Wirt in Over the Garden Wall. But it does not have any of the whimsy or magic that Over the Garden Wall has. So there's a trade-off. I see why people recommended it, but if you loved Over the Garden Wall, I can't guarantee you'll like this. It's more if you like that kind of story and storytelling of the grand adventure, lots of obstacles to overcome in order to kind of discover yourself. And I will leave you here, and I will check in with you when I've started book number 3, which is the, I think the Book of Hidden Things, the Book of Lost Things, something like that. It's in my pile somewhere, I just have to grab it. I'll see you in the next clip. Peace. Hey guys, checking in with you here. I am just sitting down with my post-work snack, and I'm about to pick up the Book of Lost Things. This is the 3rd book in my Feels Like Over the Garden Wall series that I'm doing. First book was Coraline, which I talked about. Second book was The Hike, which I've already talked about. And I'm about to dig into this. I have high hopes. I've read the first chapter, and I feel like tonally and atmospherically this is probably going to come the closest. But that's just my prediction. We'll have to see if I'm right. I may or may not check in with you again today. It depends on how much reading I get done. And we'll just have to see how it goes. So I will see you guys in the next clip after I'm most likely done the yogurt, have read some of this, and possibly even today. Hey guys, just checking in here. This has been not an awesome vlog. I've been struggling with a lot of my anxiety issues this week, so I haven't been getting as much reading done as I would have liked. So I'm only about 1/3 of the way into the Book of Lost Things. So far, this is probably the most similar, like, in terms of plot and story to Over the Garden Wall. And I did enjoy my first 2 reads, and I'm enjoying this so far. It starts off and you're like, oh, this is a kid's book, and like, it's a lot darker and more gruesome, even though it still has those childish tones, which is very similar to Over the Garden Wall. And I'm hoping to get a little bit read today, and even if I don't finish the book, I'll probably be wrapping this up in my next clip for you guys. So happy Saturday. Oh my god. Happy Sunday. Happy reading, and I'll talk to you later. Hey guys, I'm just checking in with you here. I'm still a little damp from showering after I worked out, but I'm here for 2 very important reasons. The first one is the adulty reason. My husband and I, when we did our renovations, bought blinds. And by that I mean my husband blindly allowed me to pick the blinds out that I wanted after I took measurements. And the reason I'm so excited about it is it goes up, down, and then because I'm a complete nerd as well as an adult, down. Hey guys, this is future Nikki coming in to finish. I definitely have already filmed this clip, and I'm currently editing this video, and I don't know what happened, but my phone, the video glitched and doesn't match the audio for the vlog clip I filmed using my phone. And the clip does it like 2 or 3 times, and so the audio and the video were completely out of sync, and I could not deal with it. So here is a rushed version of the clip I already did. I'm sorry that it's super, I don't know, I'm not made up. It doesn't match anything that I just did, and it was supposed to. So here we are. I finished 2 of the books. I'm like 1/3 to 1/2 of the way through the Book of Lost Things by Connolly, and I'll do a quick summary of all the books here. So I started with Coraline. I read this as a mixture of audiobook and graphic novel. I don't have them to show you again because I have taken all of those library books back to the library. I really enjoyed the atmosphere of Coraline. It was very creepy, but not too scary. It was very that middle-aged creepy where you're kind of questioning what's going on more than actually terrified. I liked the portal element to it, and I enjoyed the story, which was Coraline is trying to become accustomed to her new home, and she's waiting for school to start, and all these strange things are happening, and it's kind of her dealing with them. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm definitely not necessarily like the intended audience, but it was still a good read. The second book I read was The Hike by Magary.
This one was way more adult than the other two. The story was probably a little bit more similar, kind of lost in the woods, trying to find your way home, back to your family, back to your life. But the content was a lot more adult, like the problems he was dealing with, the obstacles he was encountering, and kind of the solution was a lot more adult. And it definitely had more of a science fiction feel than a fantasy feel. And the third book, as mentioned, was The Book of Lost Things by Connolly. This book probably had it was the most similar in terms of story, and I would say is probably the most similar in terms of atmosphere as well. With Over the Garden Wall, you have this very kind of folklore vibe to all of the stories that are occurring. In The Book of Lost Things, it's fairy tales that your main character David has kind of grown up reading, and they're kind of like fractured fairy tales. They're a little bit dark, they're a little bit twisted from what we know. And the premise is kind of that he's been sucked into this world by a presumed villain, the Crooked Man. And you're going on adventures with him. As with the first two stories, it is very episodic feeling, like you do have like very kind of distinct parts of the story where action is happening, and then the rest distinct parts of the story where it's travel. I'm still really enjoying it. It's definitely another kind of dark middle grade. I would argue maybe more at the young end of YA for this one. Regardless, I'm enjoying them all. Well, I enjoyed the two I finished, and I'm enjoying The Book of Lost Things. I do intend to finish it before the end of October. I just didn't get it done in time for this vlog. I think with any of these three books, you guys would probably end up being happy with them in some capacity if you enjoyed Over the Garden Wall. I'd say you'd probably have the best luck with The Book of Lost Things based on what I've read so far. And Coraline is kind of a nice middle ground in terms of similar tone but slightly different story. And then The Hike is probably the most similar in terms of story but the most different in terms of tone. I think the Reddit post that I looked at guided me in the right direction pretty effectively, and I'm happy with what I've been reading because of it. So I will leave you here, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.